Hello everyone. We're going to be starting this webinar in about 1 minute. Good day. My name is George DeMarco, ESX Chair, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's 2012 ESX Experience webinar called Bundling Home Automation with Security to Boost RMR. We have a great event today featuring Jim Boots of ASG Security. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing this week on esxweb.com. In today's marketplace, there's a huge opportunity for security integration and monitoring companies to offer home automation solutions like HVAC control, simple lighting control, door access, and remote video for home management and supervision on top of traditional security services. Interactive services are here to stay. For consumers, it's all about helping them make better lifestyle decisions in managing their homes. And for the security provider, it's a great way to drive higher profits and increase the enterprise value of the company. This webinar will show you how to bundle these new interactive services with your current security offerings with tips from one of the best in the business. We'll have time for questions and answers at the end of the event. So please submit your questions in the questions window on the right-hand side of your screen. I'd now like to introduce Jim Boots, Vice President of Residential Sales and Marketing for ASG Security. Jim, you're on.
Hey, thank you very much, George, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Bundling Home Automation with Security to Boost RMR World Record webinar. It's a world record because we've had the most people register for this webinar ever that has registered for an ESX webinar, so congratulations. It's a pleasure to be with you today, and I'm going to do my best to provide you with some bundling strategies that you can implement easily and quickly to combine home automation and interactive services with your security sales to help boost your RMR. You know, one of the great qualities of bundling, like most marketing strategies, is that there really isn't one size fits all solution, but rather several different options to achieve the same goal. Bundling is easy, but complicated at the same time. But if you do it right, it will create more customers, increase profitability, and grow your company. You really just have to jump in and get started to find out what works best for your organization. The plan for our webinar today is to define bundling, lay out a business case on why bundling is an intelligent solution for you and for your customer. We're going to outline a few different bundling tactics and then discuss some bundling ideas to get your creative juices flowing to help boost your RMR. Now, your mission, which is important, should you choose to bundle, is to build one or more bundles based on the information we're about to cover today, and then start measuring the results, making changes, until you begin to see the business outcomes and increased RMR that you need and want to grow your company. I hope you're ready. Let's get started. First of all, let's talk about what is bundling. Well, bundling is simply a strategy of combining two or more products or services together to sell them at a single value-added or discounted price point. You know, like me, you may have only started hearing the term bundling in the last few years, mostly with the telecommunication and cable companies. But when you know and understand and realize what bundling is, you realize you probably purchased goods or services that were bundled many times as a consumer. You know, bundling's been around for decades in the fast food industry, for example. If you've ever ordered something by a number on the menu, you've purchased a bundle of products at a discount, you know, whether you knew it or not. Just think about all the French fries you could have avoided if they weren't offered in a bundle with your cheeseburger. And by the way, the graphic I have on this slide is the only graphic I used, so if you run out after this webinar and grab a McDonald's cheeseburger, it's my fault. What about software? If you've ever bought a computer with a Microsoft operating system, for example, and a Microsoft web browser already loaded on it, you bought a bundle. By the way, it's interesting, when Microsoft introduced this bundle, they increased their market share from 7% to 38% in 1 year. Pretty compelling example of how powerful bundling can be when it's done right. What about the insurance industry? According to a J.D. Power and Associates study done just last year, 58% of customers bundle their home and automobile policies. When other insurance types are included, like a boat or RV coverage, for example, the percentage of customers bundling jumps up to 77%, so over 3/4 of the customers. Again, back to the telecom and cable industries. Now, these industries have probably become best known for this marketing strategy over the last several years with their internet, phone, TV, and now security and automation bundles, which we all need to be aware of for obvious reasons. Well, why is this important to us? Well, it's important as marketers because customers have been conditioned by sellers over the last 3+ decades to buy bundles, so consumer behavior in this area is pretty well set. In many cases, customers subconsciously expect to have bundled options when purchasing our products and services. Next, let's take a look at some of the customer benefits of bundling. We know that our customers always want to know, what's in it for me. So as marketers, we have to be aware of that question from our customers. So number one, bundles help solve multiple customer challenges with one product or service. It also provides a single source purchase, which provides service clarity. What I mean by that is, if there's a problem or they just need an answer to a question, customers know who to call. They call you. They don't have to worry about calling anyone else. And that's comforting to customers. It helps create confidence in their purchase. That's important because in one customer experience survey, about 85% of customers said they would pay more. They would be willing in advance to guarantee to pay more if they were guaranteed a positive customer experience. So customers do give very serious consideration to the value of service, and knowing they can take care of several potential service needs, multiple products, multiple services with one call is significant and valuable to them. Bundles also give customers a single billing source and one payment method. If a customer is still writing checks to pay their bills, they just need to write one check to pay for 2 or more services they're receiving in a bundle. If they're like most people, paying through an auto draft or credit card, they only have one electronic payment to track. So the convenience factor of bundling delivers additional value to the relationship. Secondly, it also saves time and money compared to researching and purchasing individual products or services. Most research on bundles show that the average savings is about 7 to 15% off a la carte. And as I said, customers have been conditioned to the fact that bundles can save them money, so they are looking for that value. If you think about that whole save time and money thing, about 99% of the ads that you see or hear every day are about how a certain product or service saves time or money. It's an important benefit that bundles provide. Customers are aware of it, and they look for that. So don't overlook it in your company's marketing story. Now, just a quick aside, when I was putting together this presentation, I Googled the phrase save time and money. I got 94,200,000 results. So it's pretty obvious. Saving time and money resonates with customers. Number 3, it enhances the customer experience. Our job as marketers is to make it as easy as possible for customers to do business with us, and bundling is one way to do that because it provides an opportunity for them to receive the core solution they were shopping for originally, plus take advantage of additional products or services that will benefit them, all at a savings. So that helps enhance the overall customer experience. So that's what's in it for the customer. Let's talk about our organizational benefits to bundling home automation and interactive services with security. Number 1, it increases our average revenue per unit or per user, or ARPU. The goal of bundling should always be to increase your recurring revenue stream, which increases your company's value. Many times bundling also increases your installation revenue, for example, when you need to purchase a device to obtain the service. A Z-Wave thermostat is a good example of needing the device to obtain the service of providing remote control of your HVAC system. Either way, whether you bundle a service like non-alarm notifications to boost RMR or bundle a thermostat for HVAC control, you increase your average revenue per unit or user, specifically your RMR, which is, you all know, the critical metric in our business. Secondly, it helps lower your customer acquisition cost, a number that's very important to all of us, obviously. So this helps lower your break-even point of creation multiple because you have a larger revenue stream against account creation expenses, so you reach a positive cash inflow sooner. It's especially true when your bundles are focused more on services, and I think as an industry that's more and more where we should go and what we should do. Look at ourselves as a service industry, not necessarily as an equipment or a component industry. So when you focus your bundles on services that don't require the purchase and installation of a device to deliver the service, you're going to lower your customer acquisition cost even more. Bundles also give us a competitive advantage in a couple of different ways. Number one, a pricing advantage, obviously compared to a la carte. We've talked about that mindset that customers have when they look for bundles to save them money. So they get more services for less money, which should increase your take rate or close rate. Also, in terms of a competitive advantage, bundles just give a customer a better overall customer experience since it simplifies the process and saves them time and money. Number four, it's going to increase our retention rate. Customer loyalty and retention is critical to profitability in our business. And if you're providing more than one service, your customers are more loyal and less likely to leave if they have to find another provider for multiple solutions. You know, research shows that once customers are in a bundle, the cost to switch, especially to multiple providers for the same services, can be discouraging or even prohibitive, so your attrition rate is going to be improved by bundling. And just in terms of interactive services in general, we've learned over the last several years that customers with these services that are receiving notifications, for example, and controlling the system remotely using a smart device or a computer, they just get hooked on the information and don't want to give it up since it becomes a part of their daily lives. So bundling those types of services are definitely going to increase your retention rate. It also increases your referral potential. You know, home automation and interactive services have that certain cool factor over a conventional system, and customers will tell their friends about that cool factor. So every account that you put on that includes this technology has a higher propensity to generate referrals. So another reason to focus on adding home automation and interactive service bundles to your portfolio offering. Okay, let's look at bundles. Types of bundling. There's really three types of bundles that you'll find out there on the internet, and I added a fourth. And so we'll start with number one. Number one is unbundling, which really essentially is just selling products and services separately. It's a la carte. I want one of those, two of those, three of those. So unbundling is a form of bundling. Number two is pure bundling, and that is where you sell products and services in a bundle of two or more, obviously, but customers cannot purchase these separately. So any item, whether it's a product or service, that's in a pure bundle cannot be purchased a la carte. We're going to break all these down here momentarily. Number three is mixed bundling, and that's a choice of buying one or more products or services individually, so it is a la carte, or buying a bundle of those products that are put together or services at a special discount. So it's more of a blended approach. And number four, multi-bundling. You won't find this term in any white paper because I made it up, and it really fits the approach that we have at ASG. It's an all-of-the-above approach. I think it's the hardest to get right, but it's also the most effective strategy because it helps you serve multiple market segments and price points to help you drive RMR, which is really what we're talking about. Okay, as I said, let's sort of unpack and discuss the two most popular types of bundling. The second most popular type is pure bundling, which again is two or more items, always offered together, no possibility they can be purchased separately. Now, you need to be aware that some studies suggest pure bundling may actually decrease your sales, especially on core products, since they can't be purchased independently. So you do need to carefully consider the products and services that you pure bundle and really be intentional not to include two or more of your core or leading products or high margin products in the same bundle so they don't cannibalize one another. For example, Security monitoring and two-way voice are two ways of delivering the same core service. Customers typically place a high value on them, so you want to be careful not to reduce profits by including those type of items, those high margin services together in a pure bundle, or any bundle for that matter, I would recommend. But in terms of a pure bundle, here's just a couple of examples to kind of give you an idea of what you might do in a pure bundle. You might have a welcome home bundle. So you have security monitoring, which is a core or high margin service. You might include a remote control lock and a lamp module. So the security monitoring is the core service, and you build in the lock so they can lock and unlock that remotely, or you can create scenes and rules so that if that lock is unlocked, it turns on the lamp module. So again, that helps simplify the process, which is a component of a good bundle, and it also includes some lesser bought items in with a core product, which is really what you try to do when you build a bundle. Another example is the Go Green bundle. So there's your security monitoring, your core product or your high margin product, and maybe you include a thermostat there and maybe an appliance module for electronic device power strip, let's say. So maybe you could set it up so that when the system is turned on or off, the thermostat adjusts up or down, and that power strip is turned on or off. Again, you're simplifying the purchase process, making it easy for the customer to buy, and you're bundling these services that cannot be bought separately to enhance the customer experience and give them what they want in terms of these certain situations, coming home or saving money on their energy bill. Of course, again, the driver is always you want to try to include additional RMR in any bundle that you build. And these two examples, the RMR would be for remote control and or notifications. It's okay to pure bundle devices that support home automation like lamp modules. You may want to create a pure bundle of, say, 3 lamp modules. So if the customer wants 1, they must buy 3. And I tell you, from our experience, what that does is once they get 1, they want 2, they want 3, they want 4 and 5. They start to look for appliances and lamps to plug these things into. So that little starter kit of a pure bundle of, say, 3 lamp modules could get you on the road to selling additional devices. And what that does is it really it makes the ability to create schedules, rules, and triggers for the operation of these modules even more important to the customer and increases their stickiness. But again, focus on RMR drivers in the majority of your bundles. Okay, mixed bundling. The most popular type of bundling is mixed bundling. As a matter of fact, it's the most popular pricing strategy in the world, according to some experts. And what it does, it assumes that every person that purchases the bundle has a high valuation for one of the products or services in the bundle and a lower evaluation for the other products or services. So for example, the customer may have contacted you because they were very interested in installing a security system, so they have a high valuation or high interest in that service and are willing to pay market price, maybe above market price for that service. They may also see some value in another product or service but are less likely to pay market price for it, but would buy it at a discount. So mixed bundling typically combines these products. So again, mixed bundling is the choice of buying one or more products or services individually at market price, or buying that bundle of 2 or more products at a special discount. So when you deploy a mixed bundling strategy, your customers have a choice. We all know customers love choice. They can buy a la carte at market price, retail price, list price, or they can buy a bundle of the same services at a discount. So your strategy should include a core product or service with a newer, or I'll say less popular, just because it is new, less popular one to enter a new market that you're trying to get into, a new area that you want to make entry into, or introduce a new product or service. In our industry, we can use security monitoring example as our core service and bundle it with any number of home automation or interactive services. For example, you might do security monitoring and HVAC control. You might build a bundle with security monitoring and video, home automation with your security service. What this does, it builds sales of those lesser or new services through word of mouth. I said earlier that customers like that cool factor. They'll tell their friends about it, and so they'll come and they'll ask you for those services. So what they do is these mixed bundles are a great way to implement a pull selling strategy, especially when your sales team's having trouble adapting to the new technology and talking about it. A lot of times sales reps aren't necessarily comfortable in this area. They've been selling security for a long time, and home automation and interactive services aren't necessarily something they're confident in, so they don't want to talk about it. But this mixed bundle pricing is a way for you to do that full selling strategy, and the information you include in your marketing materials or your website about interactive service bundles creates questions from customers, so the sales force is really pulled into the conversation, and again, those customers like those bundles. So let's talk a little bit about how you price a mixed bundle. Actually, the pricing model is pretty straightforward, and as we discussed earlier, there's many variations and approaches. You just have to find the one that works best for you, and you really do that by getting in and rolling up your sleeve, start to build bundles, and market test them. Now, the one static with pricing of a mixed bundle is that the bundle is less than the sum of its individual parts. In other words, you ought to be able to buy the products or services in a mixed bundle less than what they would be a la carte. The most popular version of mixed bundle pricing is the sort of good, better, best pricing. And you'll see this all over the internet, where a bundle starts with a basic core service, and they add new or lesser valued services, as I've discussed, to complete the bundle. And in terms of the pricing, typically what you'll see is most of these companies that deploy this strategy will have a good bundle. For example, their base bundle, there'll be a 5 to 7% discount off of list. A better bundle will be, say, around a 10 to maybe a 12% discount off of list. And the best bundle will be anywhere from a 12 to 15% discount off of list. Now, these bundles are cumulative, so that the better bundle, for example, has everything the good bundle has plus additional products or services. And then the best bundle has everything that both of those has, plus additional products or services. And as I said, you can go online and search for service providers in our industry or others, like cable and telecom, and find dozens of examples of good or best pricing. Some of you may have the triple play at home for cable TV and internet. The largest company in our industry has an example of this bundle strategy on their website that you can go take a look at as well. So as I said, with mixed bundle pricing and mixed bundles, just in terms of what they consist of with the product and service mix, the possibilities are really endless, but the goal should be to create several packages at different price points rather than just a one-size-fits-all offer. If you try the one-size-fits-all offer, what you'll find is that in your bundle that you've created, you'll have a customer say, hey, you know what, I like everything in that bundle except for that. I don't want that. What can I do about it? And you kind of look at the customer and say, well, this is the bundle. There really are no substitutions. So what you have to do is just be really creative and intentional. Look at your product portfolio and make sure that when you're designing these mixed bundles, you create several of them at different price points to make sure you're covering all of your market segment. Okay, let's talk about, what, in my opinion, one of the best characteristics of bundling, and that is its ability to increase the size of the total market share. It's a very effective way to motivate customers to spend more than they intended to spend. It works very well when, as we've discussed, customers value the same product or service differently. So when a customer is willing to pay more than the actual price of a product or service, there is what we call a consumer surplus. So that surplus can be applied to the purchase price of another product or service to entice that customer to purchase it, even though they're not willing to pay the list price of that product or service. So let me try to clarify all that. Now remember, I'm a sales guy, so we look at this chart here, hopefully it'll make sense to you. So you look at the chart that's on your screen now, and so I've got two customers, Jack and Jill. I've got two different services. And what you see there in Service 1 column is that Jack and Jill value that Service 1 differently, and they value Service 2 differently as well. So if you sold both of those at list price, it'd be $40. And so what's going to happen is, if you charge $30 for each, let's say, you're only going to sell one of those because Jack and Jill will only buy one service each, because Jack values service number 1 at, say, $30. Jill values service number 2 at $30, so it's a $60 sale. But if both customers buy a bundle, because if there's some consumer surplus, in other words, they have different valuations on the two services, but we're going to assume that both are willing to pay $35 for one of the services, and the highest retail price I show on the chart is only $30. There's that consumer surplus of $5. So if you apply that surplus to the additional service, discounted by $5, and bundle it with the product they value at $35, they'll buy both products and services. So what happens is, instead of that $60 sale that you made between Jack and Jill, now you made a $70 sale. It's an extra $10 in revenue, or a 17% increase. So again, hopefully that was clear. But what you're doing is you're taking that consumer surplus from one product, applying it to another, bundling those products together, applying a discount. And what that does is it gets you entry into a market that you might not have gained entry into if you hadn't bundled or discounted one of those products. So let's look at a bundle blueprint. So on the next slide, we're going to talk about building bundles. But on the bundle blueprint, what I wanted to do is actually sort of give you, a framework so that you could go back and reconcile your bundles and compare your bundles to this bundle framework or blueprint. So when you get ready to build your bundles, you can use these 6 characteristics as the blueprint or framework for them. So according to a study by Mercer Management Consulting, the best mixed bundles have the first 5 qualities listed, and I added number 6 for our purposes to apply to our industry. So number 1, the package is worth more than the sum of its parts, and we've already talked about that. It's discounted over a la carte pricing, and from a pricing standpoint, you need to make sure that your bundle meets that requirement. Secondly, the bundle brings order and simplicity to a set of confusing or tedious choices. For most of us, if you look at our price list, there's a lot of choices there for customers to make, and we rely on our sales team to sit down and go through and do a needs analysis and do the very best job that they can of making those choices easy for the customer, but that's always a difficult thing to do. But with bundles, customers with one decision can take care of multiple needs that are relevant to them, so it does bring order and simplicity to that set of confusing or tedious choices on our price list. So what that does is, number 3, solves a problem for the consumer of having to make these multiple choices and pick these things a la carte. Number 4 in the bundle blueprint, it's focused and lean in an effort to avoid carrying options the consumer has no use for. And this is really difficult. One of the things you have to really drill down on and focus on when you begin to build your bundles, and I'm going to talk about that on the next slide. It's really critical that you understand your market segment and build bundles that are relevant to them. And we'll talk about that next, as I said. Number 5, the bundle generates interest in a non-competing product. This is really important. I talked about this earlier. You don't want to cannibalize a high-margin product in your bundle offering. So you don't want to have, the example that I used was, say, a monitoring service along with, say, two-way voice service. So no competing products in a bundle. And again, number 6, for our purposes, the whole goal here is to generate additional revenue for your business. So the bundle generates additional revenue, or RMR. Okay, let's build some bundles. So the first thing that you need to do is really identify what your common customer needs and target market segments are. So I just put 3 up here on the slide, and these may match what yours are. Hopefully you know what your target markets are and what their needs are. I'm sure you do. I said parents with latchkey children. Obviously they had a set of unique needs, but if you talk to 100 different parents that all had latchkey children, they would have very, very common customer needs. So you could look at those customer needs and put together a bundle that would resonate with that target market segment. Frequent travelers, again, they all have the same challenges and worries and concerns if they're away from home for a large amount of time or frequently. So frequent travelers are going to have common customer needs. And I also put the sandwich generation, and we're seeing a lot of that here at ASG. And if you haven't heard of the sandwich generation, that's a generation of people who care for their aging parents while supporting their own children. It's a terrific target market for home automation and interactive services, since they obviously juggle immense responsibility and place a high value in allowing technology to make their lives easier. And again, we're seeing more and more of them reach out for us, and they're very interested in home automation and interactive services. So once you've identified who your target market segments are and sat down and really had a brainstorming session about what their common customer needs are, the next thing you do is you want to build a bundle with the products and services that meet those common customer needs. And so I just put some examples down there just to kind of get you thinking. For the parents with latchkey children, maybe you have a bundle with security and video. So it's a mixed bundle, would appeal to parents of latchkey kids since they want to protect their home and be able to view the kids' activity when they're not there. So you might even call it, you probably want to come up with a much better name, but it's the latchkey bundle. You could also bundle security and remote control of door locks, and that would be a bundle that might appeal to frequent travelers because it's going to protect their home, which again is the core business that we're in. It's that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? It's always number one on the list. So security and safety takes care of that, and it's going to provide the ability to allow access to the home if necessary while they're away, without giving anyone a key to the home or to the code to the alarm system. For the sandwich generation, you could bundle security, video, and say non-alarm alerts, easy for me to say, which we do a lot of that here. So you place a contact on, say, it's a medicine cabinet, it could be a refrigerator, it could be a number of areas, sensitive areas where you might place a sensor. So that bundle would give someone in the sandwich generation, for example, the capacity to almost be in two places at one time. Since they could view video remotely, maybe of their parents, maybe of the kids at home if they had a system in both locations, which we're seeing more and more of that. Receive alerts based on those sensors, and you could even include a sensor or two in the bundle if you wanted to for your sandwich generation bundle. And that's going to allow them to get those alerts on important events. The medicine cabinet was opened, the refrigerator wasn't opened. Those kinds of things, so they can monitor activity of their children or elderly parents. So once you've sort of gone through those two things, who are my target market segments, what are the common customer needs, and what bundles can I build with the appropriate products and solutions, and put your pricing together. As we discussed, the bundle is less than the sum of its parts. You're kind of ready to vet that or reconcile that against your bundle blueprint, if you will. And if you like what you see, it meets the guidelines. As I said earlier, ship those out to your customers. Keep an eye on your key performance indicators to measure the new results against prior outcomes, and tweak that as you go. Again, there's no right or wrong way to do bundles. You go through the process we talked about. You have a solid blueprint. Find your target market segment. Find your common customer needs. Build your bundles and just see how they work. Okay, I want to do a quick recap here on bundling benefits, just a summary. So bundles save customers time and money. They increase market share, average revenue per user, and customer loyalty. I haven't talked about this, I don't think. They extend brand awareness. And what I mean by that is, so, there's a demographic of people that are interested in security, and that's all they're interested in. But there's also that group of people that are interested in security and also have an interest in home automation, interactive services, but may not know that you do that. And when you have these bundles, it makes them aware that you have these services. And so once you have those, they tell someone else through the referral process, word of mouth that I talked about. And the next thing you know, you're not just a security company, you're also security, home automation, and interactive services. So these bundles help you extend your brand awareness. It does create a competitive advantage. We talked about that in two areas: pricing, because you're actually providing discounts before the customer asks for one. And these bundles, as I said, customers are accustomed. They're used to buying bundles, so they're looking for those. So it makes the buying experience comfortable for them, which improves the overall customer experience. And most importantly for us, as organizations and businesses, it opens up new revenue streams that have not necessarily been open to us in the past. So now what I want to do is I want to play devil's advocate. So I've spent 20, 25 minutes here talking about bundles and how significant they can be to your business, and all of that's absolutely true and accurate, and you find results of that all over the internet, and I gave you the stats to back that up. But why shouldn't you bundle? There's some reason that you might consider not bundling, and here's what those are. That you need to be aware of these as a marketer and as a sales organization. Some customers might have a negative customer perception of bundles. They may be concerned that being dependent on one company for multiple services reduces their leverage when it comes to price negotiation, for example. Some customers may be concerned one provider might not be able to provide the same level of service or expertise across all products and services in the bundle. So those are things to be aware of, and as you consider whether or not to bundle, you need to take those into consideration. And that's why in one of the very first slides in our presentation, I talked about the multi-bundling approach, which I like because that takes care of this negative customer perception, because for those customers that want to buy a la carte, they can certainly do that. The second reason is if you're really not sure of your market segmentation, bundling can be somewhat difficult. It's extremely helpful to be able to identify the groups of customers in your market and your existing base, which obviously we want to stay focused on, which have similar needs and demand similar products or services in order to develop the right bundles. And you really have to know that market segment and who your target market is and who your customers are to be able to do that. And so if you haven't done that, some characteristics used for that segmentation might be price preference, in your market in terms of, what the customer's looking for or what the competition is doing. Is it a low price market, or is it a value-driven market, where there's a lot of consumer surplus, and that's going to come into play when you're designing your bundles. And what are the size of the households that you're selling to, what is the income, the age, et cetera. So it's really important to know your target market and be able to segment that market and create bundles for each segment of your new prospects and of your existing base. So if you have that information, it's much easier to create effective bundles. But if you don't, it doesn't mean you can't test different bundles. It just takes longer to get them dialed in, and you really got to be intentional about the results. The third thing I've got on here is risk. If executed incorrectly, bundling may cannibalize more profitable sales, and I've talked about that a little bit. You don't want to have high margin or competing products in a bundle. So if you do it incorrectly, you can actually lower sales. Some experts say on the pure bundles, for example, that if you do it wrong, that can decrease your sales 20 to 25%, because you've got some competing products in there that shouldn't be competing against each other. So you want to make sure you execute the strategy correctly as well, and there's some risk to that. And the last thing is differentiation. I mean, let's face it, sometimes it pays to be the company that does things a little differently and use that to position yourself in the marketplace. If everyone you compete against uses bundles, unbundling could be a great way to differentiate your brand and position yourself in the marketplace. Again, bundling is it's a great strategy. It may not be right for everyone, but there's a lot of reasons to make sure that you are doing some kind of bundling. So the last slide, and this is really kind of an aside, and we talked about this a little bit at the ESI forum in Irving a few months ago, it seems like now, and that's marketing interactive services in general. This is a topic we could discuss for a whole week, but just to kind of summarize what we've talked about, that really goes in parallel and hand in hand with this whole branding presentation and discussion that we've had. In terms of home automation and interactive services and marketing of those services, branding is an important component of that for all the reasons we've discussed. But in your general overall marketing campaign, they have to have a starring role in messaging. That has to be sort of who you are and what you do. It can't be a by the way. If you don't talk about interactive systems in your marketing messaging, and then when your rep is face-to-face with a customer, they try to sell them one, customers get confused and push back. So interactive services and home automation really needs to be the star of your marketing show. Number two, message consistency and continuity is key. So on your website, your literature, all of your sales channels, your customer service reps, whenever they're talking with customers, you need to be the home automation, the interactive service company. So every communication you create, whether it's online, like I said, literature, et cetera, needs to be consistent if you're going to have success selling interactive systems. And if your bundles are going to be as successful as they could be, that messaging needs to be there in partnership with your bundles. And the last thing, this is probably the hardest part for some of us. I know we went through this at a couple of different organizations that I've been with, because in our business, we're great at selling components, but with security, it's a little bit of an intangible. Well, it is an intangible. And when it comes to selling home automation and interactive services, really what we're selling is convenience, savings, control, peace of mind. And so interactive services really require you to sell the solutions and paint those pictures of how the customer benefit from owning that particular product or service. So this whole messaging and marketing of interactive services needs to be wrapped around and needs to be joined at the hip with your bundling solutions. Okay, in closing, I would say, wow, that's a bundle on bundles. And I don't know how many times I said bundles, but I know it's a lot. As you can see, getting bundling right, it's no easy task. There's a lot of choices, a lot of options, a lot of ways to get things wrong. But if you do it right, it can be beneficial in so many ways. There's definitely a lot of research and testing to be done on this marketing strategy, even though it's been around for 3+ decades, as I said. You really just have to jump in and get started to find out what works best for you in your organization and determine if bundling makes sense based on your market segmentation, internal cost structure, and your local competition. So I think I have to turn it back over to George right now, but I want to thank everybody for attending this webinar. And George, are you there? We have any questions?
Yes, that's a great presentation, Jim. I really appreciate your insight. So if anybody else has any other questions, please put it in the window on the right side. But I'm gonna ask the first question here. Of all the bundled services you offered right now, which interactive service resonates the most with consumers in your guys' experience?
Well, I think for us right now, the one thing that we see that customers are really drawn to and resonate with is the ability to control their HVAC system remotely. We see a lot of customers that, there's a couple of different, several different ways. Obviously, the scheduling is important to customers, and you can get that through most programmable thermostats. But the ability to know if that thermostat has been turned up or down. I've got a 17-year-old. When he comes home from school, he likes to crank that air down or crank the heat up, and so the ability to get that notification is really important. And the ability to to have that there to save time and money on your energy and cooling bills, which obviously that's one thing everybody's trying to do right now, is really resonating with customers. So I think for us, the remote control and the notifications, and just in terms of a specific service, the ability to control that HVAC system is really important to customers.
Yeah, I find it interesting that we're using the word automation and control. And excuse me, automation has a certain connotation in people's minds. Have you found that the people have a more, they resonate more with the word control rather than automation in your experience?
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think, people a lot of times when they hear that word home automation, the first thing that comes to mind is it's expensive. It costs a lot of money. And to be with full disclosure here, the reason I'm talking about home automation is that's kind of what the title of the webinar was. But at ASG, we talk a lot about home control. We don't talk too much about home automation. It's more about home control, because I think that's it's not necessarily a new term, but I don't think that connotates or conjures up, if you will, that expense that a lot of customers I think about when they hear that term home automation.
Gotcha. Thank you. We have another question that has come in. What form of marketing do you use to generate the most interest in your solutions?
Well, I think for us, it's word of mouth. That's one of the things that generates most of our opportunities here. Our existing customer base is another. One of the things that we've been really intentional about is, since we rolled out all of our home control and automation services, since we've done that, we have done a lot of upgrades with our existing base. So we do that through just letters, through the online communication with our customers as well, through the billing process. So when we send our bills out to our customers, we do that as well. So through our existing customer base and communication with them, that's one way we've communicated this. And of course with our online presence as well. Just through our SEO and through our paid search campaigns, that's the other way that we're really trying to get the word out about our home control and interactive service offerings.
Gotcha. Another question has come in, and it's equipment related. Is there an HVAC Z-Wave thermostat that you recommend?
Well, I don't know who makes the thermostat that we use, to be quite honest with you, and I don't know if I necessarily want to get into talking about specific vendors in this forum. So if that person would send me that question maybe offline, I'd be more than happy to kind of tell them what we're using.
Gotcha. Well, let's shift a little bit and go into a different area. From a sales perspective, are you measuring their success with their ability to sell bundled services in this new environment? how do you measure it, and how are they acknowledged for their efforts?
Well, that's a great question, by the way. And so what we've done is obviously I talked about we sort of have a multi-bundling approach. And so we built our comp plans to work in parallel with that multi-bundling approach. So obviously, we have a back-end, measurement process. So when a job gets turned in, we know what kind of job that was. Is it have home control of it on it, have interactive services on it, and of course, depending on the bundle, there's additional incentive and compensation tied to that. And so yes, we do measure that, and we know exactly how many bundles we sell, and we compensate our reps for those bundles based on the cost structure and based on the RMR that they bring in.
Gotcha. And let's go a little deeper on that one. What has been the acceptance within your company of selling bundled services from your sales staff, your technicians, your customer service perspective? And do you have training programs geared to lessen that fear of taking on newer products and services?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's another great question, because that's from my chair what I'm responsible for on the residential side of the house. And yeah, that's a challenge for us, to be quite honest. Is that it's a new technology, and we're very fortunate to have a very tenured and experienced group of reps that I don't want to say they're set in their ways, but I always talk about selling, being a rhythm. And so, we've kind of asked them over the past year and a half to get out of their rhythm and to start, talking about these bundles, presenting these bundles. And so we did create a training program for that. We kind of partner with our vendors, both from the interactive side of the solution and from the equipment side of the solution. And then we also have just in-house what we call customer experience training that we wrote specifically to work around the interactive services solution. So what we have taught our reps to do is do a demo of the services on every single call. We do a needs analysis to try to determine what the customer is looking for, select the appropriate bundle or bundles. If that's going to be the case, it might be an unbundled situation. And so, yeah, we have a lot of training built around that. And I think what we saw was there were early adopters of the solution, and there were those that sort of pushed back, and I'm not necessarily going to sell that. I kind of have my way of doing things. But what we found is that you see those early adopters having a lot of success, gaining a lot of productivity over selling these bundles. They're seeing an improvement in their RMR, an improvement in their close rate. And how the sales force is. The sales force kind of looks across the table and says, hey, I like what this guy's doing. I like the results. I like the money they're making. I'm going to try some of that. So we've come a long way in the past year and a half from where we started, and we focused every single day on the interactive services and why it's important to lead with that. And I think we've done a pretty good job of building a comprehensive program around the marketing piece of it, the compensation piece of it, equipment training part of it, the interactive service part of it, and of course, again, what I call the customer experience part. So what happens when we cross that threshold into the customer's house by the time we leave, hopefully with the new customer.
Great. Here's another question, and you've already talked and touched on this a little bit, but what are some of the ideas of appliances that could be used to be turned on and off? And I like to, before you answer that, I guess it depends on what stage that household is in, but I have personally teenage kids that are obviously teenagers, and we put a contact on the liquor cabinet so that if something's open, we would get notified of that. What else do you have as far as in your mind as far as what you can turn on and off as far as appliances that you guys are presenting?
That's a great question, and I'll talk about a few, but the answer is the possibilities are endless. Obviously there's a lamp module. And again, what we found, and I talked about this in the presentation, typically once a customer gets it, once you sort of see that, no pun intended, once you see that light bulb, go on above their head about, hey, I can have this lamp module, and I can set up some scenes or rules or logic so that if the system's turned on or off, the lamp goes on and off. I can set it up on schedules. I can dim it. But once they see that, they begin to look for, well, how many lamps do I have? How many of these do I need? I think one of the most creative ways to use the appliance module, if you will, is, and we talk a lot about this, is that vampire power. And vampire power is that, let's say you have your satellite box, your DVR, you've got all your electronics plugged into a power strip, and anytime an electronic has a red light, green light, whatever, even if you're not watching or using it, if that light's on, it's drawing power. And so you can plug all those into a power strip, and when you're gone during the day, you can have that power strip, turn off or turn on. You can even program it so that, hey, my favorite show is about to come on, so I want it to come on at noon and go back off at 1 o'clock. So that's one of the more creative ways that I've seen the appliance module used in terms of those modules and what you can plug into them.
Well, speaking of that, there's another question that came in about thermostats. And thermostats, some of the newer thermostats, you can turn it on and turn it off at a certain time. You can program it, right?
Right.
So you also have lights that can also do that too. What can you tell a customer to have them identify with doing it remotely? Does it resonate with customers to do it remotely, to be able to do those functions?
Absolutely. And so the first thing that comes to mind is, and of course this isn't going to be right for every customer, so I'll maybe give you two examples. One customer might be that customer that's got a second location. So it's a house in the mountains, or it's a house on the lake, or whatever. It's a second location, and so it's in the middle of August, in Texas, or it's in the middle of January up in Vermont, whatever the case may be, and they want to head up to that location so they can just get right on their smart device. Dial up that thermostat, turn it up or down, so when you get to the home, it's either nice and cool or nice and toasty. And you can apply that same logic just to, to your home. So it could be your primary residence, you don't have a secondary location, and you've got your thermostat set up on a schedule, right? And so typically you work, if you're like most of us, you get to work early and you go home late. And again, you've got your thermostat programmed around your work schedule, but maybe one day you're leaving a little early, so your schedule gets off, and you want to go home, and you don't want to go home to a house that's too warm or that's too cold. So again, you just right before you get up from your desk, you get on your smartphone and you turn that thermostat up or down. And that's one of the things about a programmable thermostat. So the scheduling is you can go to Lowe's and get one off the shelf and create a program, but that program is the program, and you can't really change it remotely. So I think from an interactive service and from the back-end providers that we're seeing out there today, that's one of the more creative things that you can do. And I think for the thermostat as well, the thing that's really resonated with customers, and this applies to small business as well. I've kind of focused on residential, but for small business as well, so that they know when that thermostat's been turned up or down to an unacceptable level. So if you're a small business owner and you leave and you're counting on your employees to shut down the store or the shop, and again, it's in the middle of summer in Texas, which is where I am, and so they close down at 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever the case may be, and they leave the thermostat turned way down. It's on 70 degrees. So you get that notification, you just jump on your smart device, you turn it back up to 75, so you're not burning energy while you're gone and no one's in the location. And I use the example of my son, and even my bride. She probably get mad at me for saying that. But she likes the house to be very, very, very cold, and so I can kind of tell when that's going on, and you could adjust that remotely at your own peril, by the way. So those are just some of the ways that you can use that thermostat.
Great. We have time for a couple more questions, real quick here. I've been saying for years, as far as RMR services, it's almost like a faucet. The more information you flow to the customer, or the less information that you flow to the customer, that you can charge by that. But do you see bundled services evolving in a couple of years to include cloud-based services like ID theft protection, video storage, or even streaming music?
Absolutely, I do, and I know that there are some equipment manufacturers that are working on those kinds of services as we speak, and will probably be here before you know that. And I saw yesterday on the news that I think Google just rolled out Google Cloud for storage. So I have absolutely no doubt that that's coming, and it's here to a degree now. If you look at some of the interactive service providers, especially some of the video storage, a lot of that is in the cloud. It's not necessarily on your machine. It's on your device. It's in your account on the cloud. And I see more and more of those services coming down the pipeline. And I'm like you, George. I think there's going to be huge potential for us to take advantage of that. Absolutely, I do.
Okay, last question. Have you modified your customer contracts to account for these interactive services that may be delivered over various communications protocols?
One-word answer, yes.
Okay, it's important to make sure
Yes,
you look at your contract because most of the contracts are built for traditional alarm companies, detect and response. And if you're going to expand into interactive services, you want to make sure you have up-to-date contracts that encompass all
absolutely.
these services. Okay.
You're right.
Well, great. Thank you, Jim, for your wonderful insights. To learn more about the new opportunities available by bundling home automation with security, visit NextTech at ESX, a dedicated area on the show floor, an education track focused on these new technologies. It's time to lock in your registration and savings for ESX 2012 in Nashville, Tennessee. As soon as this webinar is complete, please head to esxweb.com and register for this year's event. The recording of this webinar will be available on esxweb.com soon if you'd like to review it again. Thank you again for attending, and we look forward to seeing you and your team at ESX 2012, June 26th through the 29th in Nashville. This concludes the webinar. Thank you.